Okay. We did have some emails, and John was asking us to pick a meeting time to discuss the budget and see if we could do a final on it. He had suggested Thursday afternoon at 2 o'clock. I find a lot of us are not able to attend at that time, so I was going to ask if we might do it either Thursday evening or perhaps next Monday or Tuesday, if council would have any thoughts. Joe?
I'd be good with Thursday evening.
Thursday evening?
Yeah, Thursday's good for me.
During the day, I got no time.
Thursday evening? Okay, Thursday evening it shall be. Regular time, 6:30? Is that good, Steve? Vacant. Anything else on that topic? We're good? Okay. Vacant council seat determination will be made by council resolution at the next regular council meeting. The two candidates who have indicated an interest were Marty Gibson and Gary Hughes. Both were invited to speak to us tonight and neither replied. So again, we will invite them to come to our next meeting, make a presentation to us if they wish. And from there, we will make our decision based on the information submitted to us. Okay. Spring and fall cleanup, public works report and discussion. I didn't bother to try and do the math and figure out what all it was going to cost us to do this because we don't really have the numbers there. But I would ask council tonight for a sense of direction on where we want to go, and if we can get perhaps some more financial information on it based perhaps on the last time we did this, David?
Last time we did it, we never had to take all the stuff to the dump. So a lot of it was burnt before, and now you're not allowed to do that. So with your garbage and that's got to all be brought to the dump. The only thing you can really burn is the brush. So, and then I have to have permission by the fire chief to do that stuff.
Yeah, I think you said brush, clean wood, and
Yeah, brush, clean wood. So that there was the cheaper part of the figures on the paper here on the report.
right.
But your yard waste, and that was kind of expensive. Unsorted residential garbage would run you like $15 or $29 cubic yard.
Mm-hmm.
So your tandem load would cost you $464 per load to take to the dump.
Yeah.
It's kind of costly, but like it's a good thing. We would like to have spring and fall cleanup.
Yeah. Can I throw in a question before you, Pat?
Yeah.
And that was going to be based on the last time we did this, how many tandem loads went, or could you come back and give us a final number on what that might cost?
Okay. Yeah.
In putting in place the rules that I think you last had in place for the amounts that people could put out?
Yes, that's the main thing. People got to obey by the rules of.
Going to be a limited amount that you can put
Yes.
out so we can get everybody done.
Yeah.
The other thought I had was you had mentioned breaking it up spring and fall into different categories.
Yeah.
Perhaps you can make a recommendation on which categories you'd like to be picked up
Yep.
in each.
Yep.
And then Pat.
Oh, great. Since we got the notice, like there's, what, a week in May, it's free for taking things to the dump, and a week in the fall.
Mhm.
If we had our cleanup, then would the town have to pay?
Yeah. Yeah.
Good try.
Mm,
Anyone else? Any questions for Steve on that, or? Oh, John, did you have some input? Are you sure? Hey,
Yes, I know it. I am here. Sorry about that. It was some kind of mix up in getting connected. I don't have any particular input on this topic. I know it's a popular item, but it also comes with significant costs and significant overhead controls. So it's something that should be looked at carefully. That's for sure. The idea of the 1 week in the spring and 1 week in the fall that gives individuals the opportunity to get rid of their stuff is an option I think that everyone seems to be enjoying doing, as opposed to the town coming along. In my experience now, that some towns will go with the brush cleanup, grass cleanup, things of that nature, compostable stuff. But general garbage and overflow items and unused dressers and all that is a tough sell.
thank you. In our last council meeting, at some point, I brought up the idea of a treasure hunt. David, are you familiar with those? Some of the municipalities are doing where people are able to put out stuff at the curb on, say, a Wednesday night. And then if you're doing your pickups on Monday, everyone has a chance to drive by, see if there's anything they want. It's kind of like reduce, reuse, recycle.
Yeah.
Get parts for bicycles. Towns I've been in, I've seen, wheels disappear off a bike, that kind of thing. So it's kind of useful and it's a good cost saver. Could we tie that in, do you think, with your,
Well, yeah, when we used to do cleanup, people did that anyway.
right?
Went places and scattered garbage all over the place and took what they want, left it all over, big mess. But anyway, that's what they used to do, but yeah, it's a good idea.
Okay, good. So look forward to a report back. Yes.
Can we revisit 10.1?
Thank you, Steve. John, you still there? He comes and he goes.
Yes,
There
I
he
am
is.
still.
Hi, item 10.1. Did you hear our discussion on that?
No, I'm afraid I did.
The capital and operations budget. Council asked that we meet Thursday evening, 6:30 p.m.
Excellent.
Yeah. Is there anything you wanted to say on that? Or you're good with that?
No, I'm fine. So on the Thursday meeting, is it the presentation of the actual budget as opposed to doing it tonight? Is that what was discussed?
No, it was the one that you had suggested for 2 o'clock in the afternoon, the finalization.
Finalization, yeah. So the actual budget presentation for capital and operations still going on tonight?
Yes.
Very good.
Okay. Good, Steve.
Yeah.
No, we'll just follow through. We'll look at the surplus lots. Tender submissions and notice of interest in surplus lots. Did John want to talk to that one too? You have? Yeah, very good. Over to you, Steve.
For the surplus lots, we had a deadline of a few days ago. 2 of them, there were tenders out there for it. One on Lard as well as the one on Jameson. So there was 1 bid for each of those lots. As for the other one, 93 Cobalt Street, there were 0 bids at the deadline, but there was 1 bid submitted 1 day after the deadline. Again, there were a few inquiries about that, but no formal bids until afterwards. So as for the 93 Cobalt, looking for direction from council if you want to extend another month to see what other bids we may receive for that property, or a timeline
Right.
to set up or to have a deadline for that.
Sure. So we'll open it up to discussion for council. Thoughts, recommendations, ideas?
Your worship, I'd open it up for another 30 days. I mean, we had one come in just after the deadline there, so there's some interest, and it's in our best interest to try and maximize on what we can get for that lot. So.
Anyone else? Huh?
Yeah, I think, give it another month there for 93 Cobalt Street, but the other two are good. They're neighbors that are going to use an empty lot, and that's, that can't be used for anything else. So I am all in favor of going to them.
The individuals who did on the two other lots, they were actually the ones who initiated
Mhm.
the inquiry on the lots to begin with. So,
And I would concur, they've answered within the timeline. And it's a practical use of those lots. Recommendation will be to proceed with those two sales
absolutely.
and put 93 Cobalt back on for a month.
Okay, that'd be good. So would the end of May be appropriate? So
Sure.
it'd be presented for the next committee of the whole meeting on June 7th.
Okay, items for council information, notice of Canada summer jobs, 50% funding received for 4 students. Steve, did you want to address that?
Okay.
Ellen,
Yeah, you want me
Please.
to, where is best for me to talk about? Here's fine, or is that gonna come up here?
somewhere up closer would probably be better.
Here, I'll just come stand behind you. So, yeah, we received, as you can see, 50% funding for 4 students. It's gonna be 4 8-week positions. And so the job posting has already been put out on Facebook, and it's currently being put up on employment options around town. And so hopefully, the goal is to get all 4 filled, but, we're just casting a wide net and hoping to secure a few students. 2 are just going to be kind of general labor with public works. 1 is going to try and have a bit more of a focus on landscaping around town, and then 1 is going to be down at Tech Park. We're hoping to have them help out with the project that we have just been waiting for from Fednor. We're hoping to get some new benches and things like that installed down at Tech Park, so they would be there to kind of assist in that process. So yeah, if you have any questions, feel free to ask. Yeah, pretty straightforward.
Any questions for them? Thank you. Bylaw 2125, licensing and regulation of residential units. A staff report. John, would you like to address council with your report?
Certainly, council's had an opportunity to look at the report. Basically, the recommendation that would go to the next council meeting is to keep the bylaw in its current form. I went through it in detail to see and look for any inconsistencies. I know the one presentation Mr. Pryor was talking about micromanaging. I tried to address that in the report, that obviously it is not micromanaging. The report or the purpose of the bylaw is fairly straightforward. Like many other municipalities, will find that real estate companies or individuals are buying up properties, some of them without even looking at them, and turning them into rental units. And we find ourselves sort of out in the dark a little bit, not notified. Sometimes our experience is people will come in and rent the units out and not pay property taxes or their utilities, or go through the regular channels for ensuring safety for the building code and the fire code. So this is a bit of a catch-all type of bylaw that sort of encompasses all the other bylaws that we have in place. So to get a license, the place has to be safe, it has to be zoned properly, those kinds of things. People have to be kept up on their taxes, and so it's a little bit of a little bit difficult for implementation of it from a municipal standpoint, because certain things have to be done. As you know, it was passed last year with an implementation date of, or an effective date. It was passed in the summer with an effective date of January 1 of this year, with an implementation date that was extended to April 1st. And then at the last council meeting, there was an extension of the effective date. In other words, the date people have to be in compliance is now at August 31st. I tried to explain in the report that there's no influence. This actual license bylaw does not dissuade or does not, cause anybody, a landlord, a potential owner, or whatever, any other, I think, problem or micromanaging, other than ensuring that it complies with the reasonable standards of safety, community integrity, things of that nature.
Thank you. Comments? Joe?
I got a hard time with part 10 of this report, especially the last line, 10.4. The decision of the town clerk is final. I don't agree with that at all. It should be a part of the committee, or, maybe the council can have a decision in this, not just one person. It's a little too much power for one person in my eyes. I'd like to see that changed.
Perhaps through you, Your Worship, I can address that. The decision of the town clerk is final on the issuance of the license. So if the license is not issued, that the individual has an opportunity to appeal that, and the appeal always goes to council.
Well, if you read up, John, it says that all hearings conducted by town clerk, then 10.3, then 10.4, no matter what goes on, he has the final decision for all the hearings too. I think that's a big major issue right there.
No, it's correct. You don't want to put too much power in, through Your Worship, you don't want to put too much power in the hands of one person. But the clerk has the responsibility and is the enforcement arm of the council. And if a hearing is conducted, council makes a decision. The decision is recommended and implemented through the town clerk, and as a rule, technically in these situations, that particular, after a hearing or an appeal, the town clerk issues the directive saying yay or nay, and that decision is final.
What I'm trying to say here, John, is first off, there's nothing in here that says council's part of this for the hearing in this at all. And if you even say we have a council decision not to do it, but it doesn't matter. Whatever we decide, the town clerk can say, no, I'm going to do it my way. That's where I find a little bit of, I think it's wrong.
Just the wording.
The wording maybe, or something, because that's wrong. I'm reading this. If I was to read this, yeah, I'd be a little upset as the rest here.
Okay.
Your Worship, I'm in agreement with Councillor Dubé. I think part 10 needs a rework. It doesn't read overly clear, and again, it provides too much power to the town clerk, where I think that the appeals process or a hearing process should be going before a committee of council or a board of some sort to make those decisions. I'd like to reword or rework that part of the bylaw, in my opinion.
Thank you. Anyone else?
I agree.
Can I just throw in a comment too?
Oh,
Joe?
sure, go ahead.
Sure. I've been spending the last few days going through a lot of the other bylaws that have been passed by other cities and towns in Ontario, and a very large number of them have. Everybody is trying to put together this kind of a document for the protection both of the landlord and especially too of the tenants, and I think it's important. But under hearings and under appeals of rulings, most of them that I've seen all recommend either some kind of a tribunal to which they could, which would be totally independent of council, totally independent of staff, or in some instances, perhaps you could go to a committee of council or the committee of the whole of council. But everybody that I've seen have never let it go back to the person who actually judged it in the first instance. It's always gone to a different party to weigh the appeal. And so I like that idea, and I'd like to see that reworked. Pat?
Yeah.
Joe?
That's exactly what I've been thinking, yeah.
I just had a question on part 12 also for the penalties. On 12.3, a person convicted under this bylaw is liable to a maximum fine of 25,000. Upon a first conviction, a maximum fine of 50,000 for any subsequent conviction. Is this not town's decision for these amounts? This would be a provincial courts.
Through your worship, the town portion of the fine would be $750 for the most identifiable shortcoming. But if it goes to the courts, in other words, this goes to the court, the town will ask for a $750 fine. The court then has the ability under their own jurisdiction, actually, to be able to increase that in case there was a very dangerous or obvious shortcoming there. So from the town's perspective, it would be $750. If the court decides to extend that, we don't have an ability to recommend that it goes to 10, 15, 20. The judge or the justice has that sole responsibility. Doesn't happen very often, but there may be cases where the justice determines that there was such an offense that took place that they wanted to go above and beyond the municipal portion of $750 in the fine. So I hope that explains it.
Oh, it does, but I would note again, most of the things that I've looked at, the other bylaws under penalties, they've always in the opening lines identified the Provincial Offences Act as part of what is being discussed when it comes to that stage. And I think we could clean up the language on that to include that so people know specifically it's not the town of Cobalt that's going to be trying to fine them large sums. It would be under the Provincial Offences Act, but it would be referred to the court system, and they are the ones who would do that aspect. So I think we could clean that up and make it more plain. What else was there? Oh, 8.7. I noticed, and I'm sure it's an oversight, but we have, where no appeal is registered within the required time period, the decision of the town clerk shall be final, except nowhere in the document can I find what the required time period is. Most of the other documents, I've seen 21 days, I've seen 14 days. So we should have something inserted there that would clarify that for them.
Very good.
That's about all I had. Does anyone else have any to,
For now, that's all I got. I just think we should rework a little bit this before we
yeah.
keep going.
Yeah, I'd just like to make sure we proceed with a document that's covered as many, dotted the i's and crossed the t's as much as we can, and make it a little bit more understandable, I guess, covering some of the things that I think Rod Fryer and others have pointed out. Anything else on that? You got the things we talked about? Oh, yes, you will. Yes, thanks. Thanks for the report, John. It was a good one. Draft motion, be it resolved, the council accept the items for council direction and information as presented. Moved by Matt, seconder, Pat. Any further discussion?
10.1, a capital budget presentation?
Did I skip that?
I thought John was supposed to talk on that.
Let's go back to that.
Right, let's get back to that.
Please,
Oh,
thanks.
can I have a vote on this one? All in favor? Carried. Okay, let's do the capital and operations budget presentation then, John. You ready for that?
I am going to be working with our media moderator, who will be putting up on the screen so folks can see and follow along with it as we make the presentation. I'm hoping that within 8 seconds, it'll come up. Okay, this is a little bit different. John has, our media moderator has, on the capital side anyways, put it under separated a little bit so we can actually see the headings above and everything. So this year, 2022, we've gone a little bit further in so much as we have a draft budget. A lot of it the council has seen for sure. But we've included deferred to 2023 budget because we are with Evan's work that he's doing on our asset management plan. We want to make sure that we capture going forward what the concerns are on the capital side. So and please, if there's any questions or any explanations required, I'll do my best to do that. But otherwise, I'll just try to go through it as you see there. I suppose if I went to the bottom line before, I'm not asking John to do that, but the vast majority of our capital projects are funded through either third parties, being the provincial or federal government. Oh, okay. Down there, and coming from the taxpayers on a 1.082 capital budget for 2022, we are asking for $18,000 that will come through taxes. So otherwise, it comes through, as I say, funding or borrowing, as in the case of the garage, or in the case of the first one I was going to talk about up at the top under municipal, the columbarium, which there is a reserve up there where we can access, there's enough money to put the columbarium in there, which is a big demand, and the cemetery board has asked for this. So we're looking for council's approval. The next two, as you know, we've had trouble getting contractors still in that situation, trouble getting contractors. So we're carrying on with that. It's been brought over under the gas tax for this year. We do have some repairs we think have to be done at the Classic Theater, especially at the canopy. We haven't actually got the okay from the Classic Theater board for that, but our Public Works Department have expressed that there's a concern for the safety as it's bowing a little bit and doesn't look structurally sound. We've got some repair work that we have to do at the community hall, both at the back, or exit stairwell off the top floor, and some concrete work at the front. There is a little bit of brick work that we deferred to 2023. Our food bank renovations, it does include a furnace. It includes actually cleaning up the building next door, or the area next door to the municipal office that's sitting there empty right now. And municipal, we do have to get some work done on the HVAC and the controls on the heat system. We put it in for the 2023 budget because we believe that we can access some 100% funding, and if we can, we'll do it this year. So on those items, are there any questions?
Angela?
On the Classic Theater, when this was first raised, we talked about, instead of having a canopy, having a flat marquee signboard attached to the building. Was that just the way we're going for this price, or has that been decided, or are we just plugging a number in for right now? Last I heard, we were supposed to get pricing.
Thank you, Councillor. We've asked the Classic Theater to consider marquee board. I haven't gotten really a positive feedback on that, but the $5,000 that you're looking at there is strictly the removal of the canopy and doing some interior repairs.
So no replacement?
We're seeking input, thank you, we're seeking input from the Classic Theater and haven't received that yet.
Angela?
Correct me if I'm wrong, but it's a town building, isn't it? Like, I get that there are a tenant, but at the end of the day, that's a cost to the taxpayers to put something different in. Or something more costly than a flat marquee sign.
It
It's there.
certainly, it is a town building, and that's why we're budgeting to remove the canopy, because it is, we believe it may not be safe. The actual putting a marquee board up there or whatever, in whatever fashion, is an actual tenant improvement and not a municipal taxpayer improvement. So that's why we're seeking to talk to the Classic Theater.
Alright.
If I may just throw some general background on that, several years ago when we were designing the front of it, that platform was put in and it was intended to put notices above it on the wall. But the people who made it disclosed that it wasn't built for any weight. And anybody going up to change signs and things were putting themselves in a dangerous position. So just food for thought. If it comes down, it's not a great loss that way. The only other question is it keeps weather off people waiting to get in the doors. So if I were the board, I would like something like it put back up myself. But anyway, moving along.
On to the next item.
Yes, please. Oh, John,
Yes.
could I ask the municipal office HVAC zone upgrades, would that be subject at all to COVID funding right now?
We are almost out of COVID funding. So no.
Oh, okay. Oh, Public Works then, I guess.
Public Works, so the ongoing infrastructure loan, we're at $336,000 we expect to spend this year. It is 100% financed through the provincial lending agency. The payments, annual payments show up in our operations side, so I'll touch on that at the operations level. But when you look at the other priorities that were put forward to us from our Public Works Department, because municipal fleet is not eligible for funding, and we knew that we were in a tight situation this year, the only actual piece of equipment that we're looking at, you'll see later on, is a lawn tractor to replace our tractor that is in an unsafe condition. So these items that are deferred go into our asset management plan, and we will try to either fund through financing or other methodology. We took on some fairly significant financing in the last year or so with the loader last year, a half-ton truck, and this. Well, we are well below our limit set by the province as to what we can borrow. We're nowhere near it. However, payments are a challenge on an operations side when when budgets are tight.
Yes, Joe.
Item 16, replacement of 2010 Chevrolet truck, safety issue. What's the safety issue on that one? Is that one that's falling all apart there and rotting?
Yes.
It is that truck? So we're gonna wait another year, make these guys drive a rotten truck?
Thank you, Councillor Dubey. I think for the rest of the years of while either look at hopefully a not too costly repair on the door and everything, but we may have to go down to 2 trucks in the fleet from the current 3 until we can look at that next year.
Okay. it's a safety issue, I would take it off the road. Who deems that? Is it our mechanics?
He does the safeties.
I'm sorry, David?
The mechanic does the safeties, so we have to take it off the road.
Get to that point, I would take it off the road, not to put anyone at risk. And definitely next year, look into another truck. Thanks, that's it.
Okay. Anybody else? Water and sewer department then, John?
Yes. So the water and sewer department sees a little bit more action. As council knows, we've always been under no, I shouldn't say always. Since 2008, we've been under a provincial director's order that the wetlands does not meet the ECA certificate of approval for sewage treatment and disposal, because it's sort of outside the box when it comes to the province. So we've been fighting this all along, but have sort of taken the big bite this year. As you know, last year council agrees for a simulative study, which is a big part of getting to the root causes. The old order that we were under was wrapped into the new order that includes a number of upgrades that are required down at the plant or down at the wetlands. We've put down in the budget $180,000. We believe that is way at the top end, but until we can get through the planning stage and the scheduling stage that has to be done through our ORO and with Story Environmental, who is responsible for the assimilative capacity study, we haven't nailed that down. So we've put in there a budget amount of 180,000. We do have some, and we'll come back to that if there are any questions. I'm sure there might be, but we do have some sewer side and some minor work that we think we can accomplish. Remembering that when you look at the line right above, there is a bubble of funding that we're allowed under gas tax, OSIF, and NORDS, which is a new funding. So we know what the total amount is. So Public Works, there were some items that Public Works wanted to do that were beyond the actual funding bubble. Or there were some items that at the end of the day we knew would not comply with the requirements of the funding formula. So the working foreman may see some differences here and there, and that's the cause for it. But so when we find out that we can do things down there, and our intention, we're just met with Aqua again today. Our intention is that we can below the 180. That still gives us an opportunity to come up with a project that we can look at. But for budget purposes, we'd like to keep that $180,000 in there. Knowing that, it's fairly significant funding opportunities for us, but we'd like to get it spent. So we'd like to do it. So if we're below, if we find out we do have some flex in the year, then we'll bring a project forward to council for approval. Okay.
If we go back to the wetlands upgrade just for a moment, John, are there any things in there that are possibly going to be contracted out that our Public Works crew might be able to do? Like building of buildings, that kind of thing?
No. The issue with things like gas tax and OSIF, they don't fund hourly wages. They fund projects that have contractors doing it. So no, there would be contracts to do this.
Okay, thank you.
Excuse me.
Yes, Angela.
I'd just like to clarify, so you're saying you put in $180,000 for the wetlands upgrade, the assimilative study, and if it's not gonna be $180,000 before it gets used anywhere else because it's in the budget, you're gonna come to council for approval?
That's correct.
Okay.
Thank you. Anyone else? Roads.
So again, on roads, you'll see much of it is, we have some room in, under gas tax for paving. But we also have a new funding, NORDS, that has come out, provincial funding, where they've actually sent us the money. So we know how much we have to spend, but they want to know what the projects are. And actually, they've been after us for a couple of weeks now, saying, you know, what are you folks doing? And we're telling them, well, we're going to go through the capital process tonight, and we'll see if we can get some approval. Now, for the most part, these are recommendations through the Public Works. But again, as I say, if it didn't meet the intention of the funding, it maybe things got moved around a little bit. We do know that we don't have enough funding yet this year to do everything. We do anticipate, as you can see, 26 and 27 work that we would have to cost next year. So there's not an amount there, but it's been identified. So those are the projects that we recommend from the staff, and have some input from council on going. There was some input from council on a particular road, but the NORDS, the concept behind NORDS, a little unusual in my mind, but it is main roads and tertiary roads that are impacted by resource industry traffic. So the trucks rumbling along, and we have to fix the road or whatever. So that's where we can get our funding. If we went outside that bubble, either in gas tax or NORDS on road repairs, it would have to come from the taxpayer.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, I'm sorry, I'm fuzzy because I had very little sleep after surgery yesterday. 19 and 20 on the capital budget under water sewer. Did we address that? Or did we just skip that? Or did I miss that?
I think we did go through it a little bit, yeah.
We had a question after we went through it.
Okay, I didn't remember hearing. Okay. Okay.
Now that you bring it up, David, the pyrite, ruby pyrite replacement, is that a broken sewer line that needs to be replaced?
Yeah, it's in very bad shape.
That's what I was looking at, because I'm questioning why our third-party engineer.
Because of the depth of it and the difficulty doing it, yes, I believe. David?
We can do the work if it's funded. If it's not funded, you'd have to go through the contract.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Sorry,
Yes.
Mark, through you, I was just going to clarify that David gave us a report on that actually with the issues up there a couple meetings back.
Yeah.
We went over the details.
I just wanted to clarify it today. Thanks.
I had a question.
Yes, sir.
On roads, I don't see that laneway. Is that why? Because she's not in the little bubble?
Yes.
That kind of sucks. Okay. 2 years, this person's been asking for this.
Mhm. Yeah, if it all, we've got to do it this year.
We got item 29, Joe?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
That's not the Laird laneway. There's no name on that laneway. There's no names for that street.
Now, what are you considering Laird Laneway then?
That would be that laneway.
Is it called there?
Yeah.
Is
Yeah,
that
it's
all?
off of
There's no
Laird.
name.
It's off of Laird, even though it has no name.
Okay.
But it is off of
It
Laird.
is that one, yeah.
Wow, the price sure jumped up since the last quote we got. Dave?
Number 29, Dave.
29, there's no price on that.
I see 35,362, and I was told it was 10 grand.
That's 28. It was 10 grand. 10-3 was.
Oh, sorry, yeah, I got
Oh,
the
you're
monies
right,
mixed up.
yeah.
Sorry, my mistake.
Are you suggesting that should be a priority to get done this year, Joe?
Well, this person's been complaining a lot of times. How many times you get called there to, get the gravel down and stuff like that? It takes time away from you in town. And she had to change her vehicle because she couldn't get through on the first year. So she went and bought it, she wanted to stay in this town. And I went and looked at it. I think Steve and I went and looked at it. The other CEO that we had, we went and looked at it and nothing's been done. So
I've looked at it, yes.
it's in rough
Should be
shape.
a priority.
Could we get a price on that then, Steve? Have a look at it? 'Cause
Mhm,
I kind of agree, she's gone through a lot of difficulties
mhm.
over that issue and she's been very patient. Okay, planning department.
So as you know, we're almost there with our official plan. It's actually with the province now. We are moving towards our zoning bylaw amendment, which is the legislation that implements the official plan and comes up with things like side yards, lot sizes, things of that nature. So that's an ongoing thing for this year, and we hopefully will have it done by the summer. And it ties into so many things. It gives some clarity as to where people can build, what they can build, and it also, because of input from people that went to the meetings, it also gives opportunities for different things. Gives us the town a little bit more leeway on encouraging construction and things of that nature, such as small homes and that. And then there are still some regulatory requirements under the asset management planning stuff, and we will be completing that this summer, where the province is requesting or requiring a level of service standard through our asset management plan. And that is where we have Evan working on that with Marmac, our engineering folks that are helping us out.
Okay, any questions on any of that? Parks and Recreation?
So as you can see, this is a little bit weird in so much as we've been told informally, so to speak, that we do have funding for the tech park for $100,000, $105,000 to upgrade. Fairly healthy support by FedNor of $93,000. We do have identified $12,000 from our reserve for recreation. We do expect to throw a fair amount of in-kind items in there. We do have things like lights and underground wiring and things of that nature. So it is a sort of an exciting little project that hopefully we'll have a summer student there and be able to drive this through. And again, our intern is taking the lead on this and is following up on it. The Wellness Center, as you know, that's been up and down and in and around with council, and still has gone through the approval process, but it has not been approved, and we're not quite sure if it will be approved now that the writ has been dropped with the province, and it sort of puts a hold on things that aren't already in the cycle. So we're suggesting that we, when we get approval, that we bring it through and bring it back to council and see if they wanted to defer to the 2023 budget. And the lawn tractor, which is a piece of new equipment. The existing one is unsafe. It does a lot of work in the summer. Last year, we didn't have any students, as you know, and we suffered a little bit for our downtown beauty and things of that nature. So we're trying to ensure that we have the tools to do it, and maybe hopefully the summer students to assist, and more effort will be going into beautifying particularly the downtown as folks go through.
Yes, Angela.
I see that you're gonna trade in the current lawn tractor. Why are we trading it in? Because it's still good for flat spaces like Tech Park and that. What kind of value are we getting on a trade-in?
I am not sure if David would know that amount. I thought it was 4,000.
On the trade, I think it was 1,500. The machine's $3,000. It's not.
Okay, so why wouldn't we keep it for use in the flat spaces like Tech Park? Because then we could make more efficient use of our students' time and have 2 students doing grass.
I would hazard a guess that John said it was unsafe. So-
It is,
It's unsafe for hills, but it's good for flat spaces, correct me if I'm wrong.
yeah, you can use it on class.
Yeah, and Tech Park is flat.
What
We,
makes it unsafe on hills?
It'll just flip right around on you. It'll be going up. and-
Tippy on the hills.
Yeah, it'll flip right around. You'll do it donk. It's not hard to flip the machine if you don't know what you're doing with it.
Common with residential riding more.
It's not a commercial machine, it's a residential machine.
just through you, your worship, one of the reasons why we're looking at the trade-in is trying to get the capital amount of the taxpayers down.
And it was $1,500 compared to 30,000 and 20,000 and 18,000, like.
That's 1,500 for that laneway then. As a start.
However, it was just a suggestion. It just seems to be more efficient use of people's time, which labor is our biggest cost.
Yeah, I just have trouble with operating something that's been graded unsafe for that application, but okay for that application. What happens if somebody gets confused and takes it to a wrong application? I don't like that idea.
And if you've only got one student that's assigned to doing that kind of work, then you're only going to be using one at a time, so. You're only gonna be using one more.
Student doing grass and landscaping in the summer. They're not gonna get through it all before summer's over. Anyway.
Anything else on that topic?
Good.
Fire department.
Our fire department knows that they will need a new truck. They're hoping that would be some money for a contingency reserve to help them prepare for the truck. I can't really go through the actual, perhaps our working foreman might be able to do that, but which particular truck has to be there. And all we knew is sometimes there are opportunities for funding for fire departments for a fleet. Not very often, but we've had our fire chief look into it for this year, and there isn't. So we're identifying it as a need for the fire department, but not being able to finance it this year.
Okay, any questions on that? Okay, John, anything else you wanted to throw in here?
No, other than it does, at the end of the day, there are still residual pockets of money in capital funding opportunities. Mind you, we have to watch things like paving and everything like that, with the price of crude up so high that the paving costs are going up fairly fast too. So we've built in a little bit of opportunity there, but a little bit of protection. So it's something that, again, we know what the pocket of money is. We know what what we're allowed to use it for. And we just want to be very careful that if we start a project, we don't go over that pocket of money and impact the taxes.
Thank you. So any questions about our capital budget? From anybody? No? Okay. Want to go on to the next, John?
Sure. So this is a little bit bigger, a little bit more complex, and that is our operating budget. So I will start at the bottom line, so everyone has an idea what we're looking at. You'll see the top is the revenues. We are saying that we will, under our operating, that we will get 2.1 million. And we are saying that under capital, we were getting the 1.8 million. The expenditures, operating at 2.9, capitals both the same except for the grass lawnmower. So well, that leaves a balance, outstanding balance of 767,000. So traditionally, that's how you do municipal operational budgets. You look at how much money you're bringing in, you look at how much money is going out, and the difference means what you have to charge for property taxes. So last year we charged 637. That leaves us still with a shortfall. That shortfall, we are, because without cutting services, and we have this budget is the balanced budget that does not cut services and does not touch reserves. However, it does go in and we had a good year last year, in so much as we had some operational surpluses, both in the water and sewer, and we have a general operating surplus. So my recommendation, staff's recommendation, is that we go with a 3% increase in property taxes, in so much because we are in inflationary times and we're a service delivery agent that has to meet our own increased costs, and we have to provide a balanced budget. So a 3% increase would probably amount to something like $50, between $45 and $50 per for an average nice home in Cobalt. We can go to zero. However, we'd have to dig a little bit into our actual operational surplus. So it can be done. My recommendation is that we don't do it. I know it's always attractive as a former mayor. Going into an election year was always you always wanted it to be zero, but I think it's responsible that we look at a 3% increase. After you go through the operations side, it's council's decision as to what the tax rate will be struck at. I'm just providing you an administrator's recommendation that in times of inflation, keeping up, there should be an increase in property taxes. Then to go zero is just at the end of the day, not this year, not next, maybe the year after. If you keep at zero, you will slowly be getting yourselves in trouble. So that's the big picture. If we want to start with the
Angela, did you have a question?
Yeah, could I propose we have a scenario of a 1.5% increase instead of a 3%, split the difference? Because I can tell you, I know it's an inflationary time and everything, but I can tell you that most residents didn't get a 3% increase in income.
That is 100% up to council. However, the corporation of the town is not a residence. It has the responsibility of serving the residents. So I think it's important to keep it financially healthy. Or if council doesn't, then the fear is that you'll leave yourself weakened in the future if you don't at least keep up a little bit with the ongoing increases in expenses and possible decreases in funding. It is the major source of funding for the municipality from the taxes. That is that's the big amount that you get from the residents of Cobalt. There are other fees and charges and things of that nature, but property taxes are the largest. But I will say, over the years, we've had our wrists slapped for having outstanding taxes that are a little bit higher than what the province sets it at. We have really worked at bringing that down and have done it to the satisfaction of the province. And I can tell you that, to my knowledge, there are not any homes in Cobalt, seniors' homes, let's say, where there are tax arrears. And so I think the folks and the residents and the homeowners of the town of Cobalt are very conscientious in paying their taxes. And the residents do a great job in keeping up with that, however tough it may be.
Angela?
Okay, and I get all that, and I'm just saying that sometimes a $50 increase in tax can make a big impact on somebody. So I'm just saying, can we not do a proposal, see what it looks like at a 1.5%? I'm not saying go to 0. I'm just saying, you know, like, you've got to give us an opportunity to see it.
Fairly straightforward mathematical, formula.
I just did a quick calculation there, so at 1.5%, it would be up around 35,000 we'd be taking out of the general municipal surplus. No, that doesn't work. No, it doesn't. 1/3 is 19. It'll be up around 20,000 anyway then.
So
1.5.
More than what?
More than that,
we're
about
currently taking
25.
for 3.
Yeah.
So it's $4,000 increase,
Mhm.
what we take out of the surplus.
Basically.
It's a lot less increase than what the gas company told us it's going up per household.
I just know hydro's already gone up, natural gas has gone up.
That affects us too, even affects the town, affects everybody.
Yeah.
Well, do we have Pat, if you want to make a recommendation or?
Well, I'm looking at all my finances for the year and what's coming in. Is that $45 to $50 for the whole year or each tax bill?
The
The
whole
whole
year.
year? Whole year? Okay. Yeah, I can do $45 to $50 more.
But perhaps for our next meeting, if we could have that 1.5% firmed up,
Yeah.
would that
Check
be
it out,
covered? Just to have a look, see, please? Okay, do you want to get into the nitty-gritty there, John?
Sure. Depends how nitty-gritty you want to be. So I will try my best, and council can interrupt at any time, obviously. But my intention is to sort of go over the highlights as to how things are a little bit different this year, or what is different. We show very clearly the where we left it blank on the municipal taxation. So in this particular chart or Excel spreadsheet, we show the actual revenue and expenditure totals. Now you'll see under general government and finance, let's see. We've broken it down to wages, benefits, and everything else. So this year is a little bit different. We do have a a full-time town manager, a part-time contract for me right now at 20 hours a week at $42 an hour. The town pays me on an open contract agreement where right now I've committed to November in the hopes that I can make it there. And my job here, just to lay that out, is mentoring the new town manager, the new municipal intern, and completing a number of outstanding items. And that's why I'm speaking tonight and not Steve. He will be doing this as we move forward, but this is some of the one of the items that I've been tasked with is bringing home the operations budget, capital budget, setting the tax rate, and things like negotiating the collective agreement, things of that nature. We have a lot going on, the transfer to Aqua, the official plan, zoning bylaw, upgrading things, upgrading procedures, as you know. And so that's where I see myself going. But enough about me. The office hours, as you know, they've increased to 75. We've had the staff go down to half an hour lunch. We've done some work in, I'm just going over some of the items that I know have are a little bit different and trying to bring it as to, you know, where people understand them. We do have that intern that is new. Our town percent is 10, our town share is 10%. That was approved last year. This year is $5,000 for the election. We've got an upgrade in software at the Fraser. We've installed some cameras down there. So those are the things that are in the general government and finance. Now, what's important to note in general government and finance is that much of the costs are fixed. Costs such as the OPP billing, the DSAB, animal control, building official, our social media person, media moderator. We've been funding that with COVID, but that COVID is coming to the end. But maybe perhaps some of the actual costs with media moderator, depending on how the council decides to go forward, once we don't have to do things like Zoom meetings and that nature. So that's it. That comes in at around $300,000 or something. So we do have things that we really want to look at. We want to sell the Solar project. I've been working at that for a couple of years now. We're hoping that's in because it does it. I shouldn't say it impacts our bottom line, but it is noted in our financial statements that it operates at a loss that's separate. So all it does is it shows up on paper, but it doesn't impact our actual dollar amount. So if you look at the different areas that we have here, we've broken it down into a format that our auditor likes. Mind you, they come up at the end of the year and make some transfers and everything else to meet the requirements that the province puts on them. So it sometimes throws things off a little bit, especially at the beginning of the year. And that's why it's tough to, municipal budgets are a little bit tough to try to explain because of that. But otherwise, so this is just a sort of a snapshot of what departments we're spending our money. So, you know, we are spending our money in general government, which has a broad umbrella for all kinds of things. And under the operating expenditures, again, you'll see that it's fairly hefty in different areas that are broken through. So once you look at that, the total revenue, and then you extrapolate across the Excel spreadsheet, you'll see where we apply our funding or where our funding is impacted. We can go to the next slide that has a little bit more detail that'll give council the opportunity, not this one, maybe the next one. So that might be a little bit hard for you to see, but that breaks down and I know all council has had a chance to look at this and go over it. So, but it is new to the people that are watching online or in the audience. It breaks down each line by line item with a little bit of the notes on the side to, because, you know, these are numbers, but the numbers do have, you know, thought behind it. I'm not sure, Will, if you can just bring it up, yeah, see if you can get it a little bit bigger there, John. There we go. And so as I say, I'm not going to go through line by line item. I'm hoping that if there are any questions, because I'm losing my voice already, I haven't talked this much in a long time. If there are any questions, the councillors can mention that, but otherwise we go down a little bit. Those are the expenses. We have budgeted in a salary increase in our what's coming up in the minutes of settlement for the collective agreement with our union workers. Now we're almost 1 year into that deadline, into a 3-year contract, so we've had to make sure that we have enough to cover the retro and the increase that you'll hear about later at the Thursday meeting. We're very busy right now preparing for the election. As you know, the nomination period started yesterday. A lot of technical requirements that go with the election. The budget's only 5,000, but the budget's 5,000, but the time consumption is very, very extensive because you don't want to make a mistake on this. We're talking 2% on things like utilities and that. We hope that that's not too far off, but there is an expectation that it may be.
John, I think Angela had a question.
Certainly.
Under general government municipal buildings communications, the community hall phone line. It's not much of a savings, but can we see if we can bundle it with our internet for a savings there?
I will look to Steve because he's the expert in this area.
So I believe we have ExploreNet for internet up here now.
Okay, your worship, it's with Eastlink, and I'll
Or
check the
Eastlink,
CDA,
sorry.
yeah, to get a complete bundle with it, to include it with ours.
Might be a bit of a savings there.
Okay, if we can slip down a little bit. So when you're looking at transportation, which is a fairly expensive item, again, this is where I come to these, you know, a little bit of a confusing item because you'll see 2022 budget 342,000 in 2021 actual. And the reason for that is we know we're budgeting how much it's going to cost. As the public works fellows and the inside staff, when the time cards are put in, they're very detailed. And those dollars are sent off into different areas, such water and sewer and everything else. So our budget and our actual looks a little bit off there, but it isn't really off. The actual will bear out as we sprinkle it through the whole operations. You'll see our back to our truck and loader, how much we pay a year for that. Our garage payments a year. Payments and interest, even though it's a low interest loan, 2.8% or 2%. I'm not sure the exact amount anymore, but as you know, they front end the interest. And get their interest out of us at the front end, like a mortgage. Utilities, again, we do need some extra salt compared to the previous years. So we have a lot of input, obviously, from our Public Works Department on this, on line by line items. And I think that's it for that, unless there's some questions.
Angela?
Why is the Public Works communication double in this budget as opposed to the actual last year?
I'll have Steve answer that.
We are looking at upgrading the internet down there. Right now, it's just currently DSL, and for more of the software operations required by Public Works communications, we do have to look at upgrading the internet speeds.
Steve, can you talk a little bit about the project management?
Yeah, we also looked at getting software for project management. It's Microsoft Projects to introduce, to see timelines to major projects that we want, scheduling, also cost savings within that software.
And is this what it's gonna cost every year going forward? or
No,
is this
it's just a
an initial?
one-time for the software.
Okay, thank you, Steve. Steve.
The transit and later on under waste management, we do pay Temiskaming Shores, as you know, or are billed by Temiskaming Shores for not only transit but for waste disposal, because we don't have our own dump. But I know our deputy treasurer has been after them to give us their estimate, and we haven't got their estimate yet for 2022. So I think that must be waiting on their capital budget, but we believe it's going to be in and around the same. So that's what we put in the budget. Okay, just down a little bit, you'll see there we go.
Joe, question?
Hey, John,
Yes.
under Public Works training and seminars, I sent an email out a while ago about having supervisory training for Aaron. Is that gonna happen on this? Because I don't see it. I see it under training and seminar. Is that included? I just see chainsaw, propane, working heights and all that kind of stuff.
No, it's not included at this time. So I think what we have to do is look at the whole operations and see where the training is going to be in there. Project management itself is part of that, obviously training and getting tying things like this together. But that option is still available. We just haven't shown it in this budget.
Okay, good. I don't think it should be an option, honestly. I think it should be something that he needs to know and get educated on, and to know his rights and his roles and responsibilities. That should be included in this budget. It's actually in the Green Book, if you read it.
Very good. We'll make note of that. Thanks, Joe.
Thank you.
So under health, social and family services, you can see a little bit there what's going on. We're still involved in the physician recruitment. Almost everything you see there is set. So in other words, Temiskaming Health Unit determines by a formula how much each community has to pay and applies a percentile adjustment. So the same is true for land ambulance, Silverland, DSAB, social housing, childcare. So that particular aspect of health and social family services has been assumed by DSAB and its working partners, and for the most part is funded through the province, where they did this upload, download of responsibilities a number of years back. And so with our fixed funding that we get from the province includes, for the most part, there might be some argument here and there, for the most part, covering this. Okay. So recreation, we don't have all that much, as you can see, although we're hoping that the tech park will will be an integral part of recreation. Over the last couple of years, the Lions have stepped up and have worked on their own, and with some cooperation from the municipality on delivering kids mounts. We have helped with flow-through funding, where they've asked for funding from a third party. The third party will only pay it to the town, and then we send it off to the Lions, and they take care of things. I don't know if you noticed that they're planning something else this spring at the arena of all places, which should be interesting.
I think it'd be pretty cool.
Go down just a little bit. Now, on here, in this budget, we are not showing any transfer payments to the theater for an operating grant. We haven't received an application. For the mining museum, we haven't received an application. We, like everyone else, they're coming out of COVID and perhaps maybe have got funding otherwise. We did receive, obviously, the operating grant from the library, or our operating request for funding. It came in and around, their request was in and around 47,000. Last year it was 40,000. We're looking at there's a surplus with the library. We're looking that perhaps they can use some of that surplus to help with this year.
What surplus? I understood there wasn't a surplus. I believe they
Uh,
paid out a bonus to their librarian.
The audited statements for the library show that there is an operational surplus.
Yes, but that contemplates funding for the next 2 months in the next year, so before they get grants from Cobalt. That's been going on that way for many, many years. It's not a surplus in that sense. It's just the way they've been getting funded from the town.
Certainly we'll follow up on that.
Thank you.
It's getting dark in my room here. I forgot to turn the light on. Carry on, but it's bright looking at the screen. So if I look too dark, it's because I don't have my light on. Oh, but carry on. We're on to the next. Planning and development, we're not showing anything because it's all covered under capital. Protection of persons and property, that is our OPP. That's now in with our taxes. In and around a little bit less this year, we're hoping. Our fire permits, pretty standard. Building permits. Building permits is sort of in and out. There are items that we get, but a lot of it goes to funding our building inspector. We're looking at, with the actual fire department or fire code inspection, we're looking at $75 to do per building as a part of the anticipated license fee. Provincial offenses, all the municipalities have a share On provincial offenses, again, we've asked for what is expected for this year. We don't know, so we put in the same amount more or less from last year. Our fire department is fairly straightforward, very well managed.
Angela has a question, John?
Shoot.
My understanding is there's new certification requirements coming, new level certifications for the firefighters. Is that training that our firefighters are gonna have to do, and when's that gonna be done? I think the requirements are coming.
My understanding is that there's no impact on the 2022 year, that this may be looked at 20. Very controversial for volunteer fire departments, the legislation that's coming down from the province. So it has some grandfathering, and it has some size numbers, and it has a whole formula of who will be required. It fits very well with people that have unionized members, but it's sure it's a major problem with communities that are strictly volunteers.
Yeah, I just know, my son-in-law's with Huntsville and they're volunteering. He was saying that they have to have it. So,
You can just hang on 1 second. I'm going to try to turn my light on. There. Okay, so the fire department, as I say, very well managed, very tight budget. It's pretty well on line with most anything else. But the one thing that they do know, obviously, is that there are some equipment requirements that Steve is going to work with the fire chief on trying to get things going there. Did you anything you want to say on that, Steve?
Just with the training right now, the government has kind of flip-flopped a little bit on it because of the feedback that they're getting from a lot of municipalities, worried about losing volunteers. So that's still up for discussion. I know a number of fire departments are definitely against that training that the government is trying to implement. And it may become an election item there coming up this year at the provincial level.
Anything else? Hey, John?
Yeah, if you want to just go bring it up a little bit so I can see the bottom. There we go. There we go. So we do have a contract for animal control. We've went out to tender, and we've had one submission. Bringing that matter to council in the near future. We have things like the dispatch service for the fire department. We have a building enforcement folks. We have a bylaw contract. We budgeted, I believe, $20,000 to get rid of derelict buildings. We put in $10,000 for continued cleanup of derelict properties this year. Okay. As you can see, it goes on and on. The great work I think that's been done by the staff in drawing up this Excel spreadsheet and working through it, many drafts to try to get it as tight as possible. Even though we ended up with a shortfall that we're going to have to use. If it's council's intent to use the operational surplus on the water and sewer, but the intent is to go with a balanced budget. The Environmental services, you can see there the revenue side on that. We do generate revenue on the environmental services. We do have some revenue on, obviously on water is a big one. We do have a contract with Coleman Township where we've implemented a new agreement, longstanding agreement that was just left undone for a number of years, and so that now everybody knows how the impact, how it's to be distributed, and how the costs are justified. So again, it talks a little bit about where we have to distribute the time cards. We do have 15% admin charge that we cover off on the sewer when we do the final sewer billing, as we do with water. Our utilities down there, as you see, $1,500 on supplies where we're transitioning. If you keep going down lower, unless there's any questions, you'll see the impact this year, partially a year where April 1st, we've gone to an actual ORO full water and sewer on Aqua as opposed to a hybrid system. Again, landfill, we're sort of guessing at it. Recycling, again, it's all driven through Temiskaming Shores. Collections, flat rate, pretty consistent. Seems to be that the system the town chose to go along with Temiskaming Shores and Halebury or whatever, with Fippen on our garbage collection, and although it was opposed at the beginning, I think it's turned out to be an excellent system that seems to be working. Okay, next. Oh. So basically, if you go right back to the beginning, if I understand the couple of notes that I've been taking, we will come up with the difference between a 1.5, a 0, 1.5, and 3. Try to put in the budget items that you've talked about tonight, and look to get the actual budget passed at a special meeting later this week. The sooner we get it passed, the better. We still don't, we have our audited statements from last year, so we know that we did fairly well. We can't finalize them until the old Solaire people get their auditor to provide us their statements. And we've been pushing them to get that to us right away, because there's an expectation coming up fairly soon that we have to provide the province with our financial information return, which includes obviously the capital and operations budget. We can't do that without Solaire. So we're hoping that we're 99% of the way there. As soon as we get that, we can implement our financial information return to the province, and in the final tax billing going out later on this summer, we'll have highlights of our budget, and a sort of a question and answer stuff, and sort of highlights of what we're anticipating to do this fiscal year, and a little bit about what's been accomplished to date. I do want to recognize the hard work our staff inside and outside and preparing for this budget. As you can see, there's a lot of work that goes on, and there is a requirement to be as correct as possible. It's still a budget. The budgets are loosely said are your best estimate, but we try to look at every possible scenario to make sure that it is as close as possible, and that we have the ability to fund the operations of the municipality of Cobalt.
I think that concludes the presentation. Anybody have any other questions to ask at this time? We're good?
Motion Thursday.
Okay, yes.
Just one question, just a follow up. Earlier in the year, we were actually about 2 years ago now, we asked about leases on our commercial spaces. We're talking about revenue. And we have some commercial spaces in town where we do not have leases at all. There's no revenue coming in. There's no agreement there. That would be something that I'd like to follow up on and firm up before the end of our tenure here as this council, just to make sure that we're not putting it on the shoulders of the ratepayer while we have organizations in town who aren't paying towards any type of leasable space. I just don't think that is appropriate, in my opinion, and I'd like to follow up on making sure that we do have proper lease agreements in place for these organizations.
Okay. Thank you, Matthew.
Maybe, if I can, Your Worship, just to clarify that, it's been a little bit of frustration with the leases. We've drawn up leases. Everybody from the bunker to the mining museum to the classic theater have the leases in place. Now, in those leases, they have them, but they're not signed off because they haven't finalized them with us. So that we're working on that. Definitely at the pharmacy, we have a lease. It's we get our revenue on that, and that's fairly straightforward, but it was outstanding before. But in all of those leases, it's for $1. All the leases for the mining museum, the classic theater, and the bunker are all for $1 as the town's contribution to there. So those particular ones will not generate funds, but will protect the municipality because it's you definitely need a lease with a tenant, even if it is $1. So we're working on that. I've talked with the theater. I've talked with the mining museum at length on there, and sometimes it comes down to, well, we're still not happy with this, or we need clarification on a repair to the door. They're not holding us hostage because they know that, and they've been informed, if they wish to apply for an operating grant with the municipality, which, as you know, in the past, municipalities have provided them with operating grants, they'll not be considered without a lease and without financial statements.
Matthew?
Thank you very much, John. I wasn't trying to drill down to the specific entities just for the sake of, keeping it general. But we have a theater in town that takes advantage of a 250-seat auditorium and sells tickets to these events. They're generating revenue. I sat on that board. I know that they generate revenue. So although I'm a supporter of the arts, and I understand how arts and culture is a foundational piece of our community, that doesn't sit well with me, especially when the organization is, again, selling admission to these events in a building that is our asset, and they're only paying $1 towards a lease. Now, the museums I can get behind, and I understand that, because the traffic isn't the same. But $25 a ticket, $30 a ticket, 200 seats. That's a significant amount of revenue coming through our town that we're not capitalizing on at all. And I would like that entity looked at specifically. But again, I wasn't trying to drill down to specifics. I wanted just to keep that general. But since we've opened that, I think that's something that needs to be addressed.
Fair enough.
Thank you, Matthew. Could we get a staff report on that?
Nice.
Yes, Angela, sorry.
And I think it also needs to be, taken into consideration when requests for grants do come to the town, that they're already getting a lease space, and I'm not talking one specific entity, I'm talking all of them, and the value of that alone.
It's something we can look at, you know, it's get a report on it and see which way you want to go on it. I tend to agree with Matthew. We have always supported the museums as part of a cultural contribution to the town and certainly a tourism generating item and encapsulating our history. You know, somebody's got to preserve it. It's important.
Yeah, well, I'm just saying that the amount that they're saving on a lease should also be taken into account when they're getting an operational.
Absolutely, yeah. As long as we don't compromise their ability to operate.
That's correct.
Anything else? No other business? No outs. Well, anything out of the outstanding business list? No questions? Okay. So we come to our closed session portion of the meeting. Be it resolved, the council convene in closed session as per section 239 of the Municipal Act 2001 as amended in order to address a matter in subsection 2A, security of the property of the municipality or local board, and 2D, labor relations or employee negotiations. And Laura, Joe, and Pat, I had a yeah.
Sure. Are we going to take 5, your
I
worship? Or?
absolutely think we're going to take 5. Okay. Thank you. Business arising from closed session. Do we list what our directions are coming out of the closed session, or do we just proceed with those?
No,
I think we
I
just
think we
proceed
gave
with
our
them, eh?
direction, that's it.
Yeah,
Yeah, we're done.
okay. Adjournment. Be it resolved that the committee of the whole meeting of council be adjourned at 9:53 p.m. Mover? Joe, seconder, Ange? Vote? 1, 2, 3, 4, carried. Thank you, one and all.